Sorry, I had storage issues, so this part was cut off. I've always taken umbrage with that portrayal of Gabrielle. There are many generations between us, but her blood is strong. I've always been told I look just like her. I am dumbstruck. You're related to Gabrielle? The wicked stepsister? Wicked? No. Stepsister? Yes. I step back and run right into the wall. My head swims with fragments of the story. The stepsisters are said to have been exceedingly cruel to Cinderella, and their descriptions make them out to be monstrous aberrations. None of the stories mention either of them having children or families of their own. That makes you kin to Cinderella, I say, trying to put their family tree together in my head. Six great niece, Constance says. I can't even think straight. If you're serious, I am. I slowly sit down. My thoughts turn back to the more immediate issue of the king's men. The guards are looking for me, and I don't want to put you in a bad situation. They'd kill you for just helping me. They would try, she says, looking thoughtful. She turns slightly, showing me a dagger hanging from her belt. And where can you go that King Manfred won't find you? I hadn't thought it through. All I know is that I need to get as far away from Lily as possible. I planned on walking until my legs gave out. I'm not really sure where. That's a terrible idea. Constance crosses her arms. It's a good thing I don't need your permission then, is it? She blinks repeatedly, smiling a little and nodding. I don't have a better suggestion. I don't think you'd be safe in any city in Versailles. He could never allow you to defy him and get away with it. If I stay away, maybe he'll let it go, I'd say. He won't. How do you know so much about what he would and wouldn't do? She sighs, and her shoulders slump down. Because I keep the stories no one else is allowed to hear, the things Manfred and his predecessors don't want anyone to know, the true history of my family. The true history, I ask? She drags a chair over and sits directly across from me. Have you ever thought about what kind of person would have a child and name it Charming? I've never really thought about it, I say, and now that I think about it, it seems kind of ridiculous. Are you saying that wasn't his real name? No one knows what his real name was, she says. I laugh, but she doesn't. She is dead serious, and I still myself, allowing her to continue. Did you know Cinderella's father was the highest-ranking advisor, the closest person to the old king who ruled Versailles before Prince Charming took over? No, I say in utter shock. I've never heard that. He was, but Prince Charming came to Versailles in a time of drought and famine so devastating it was like anything the people have ever seen before. They were desperate, and Charming told them he could save them if they made him king. In the beginning they refused, putting their trust in their king. Charming bided his time, and when things got worse, he offered his help yet again. This time the people agreed and disposed of the old king, making Charming their ruler. And he did what he said he would, I say. I know this story too. The founding of our kingdom by the benevolent Prince Charming. The crops once again flourished, the rivers ran through drought-stricken lands. There were rumblings of magic, of curses somehow broken, but the people of Versailles knelt at his feet. Constance shakes her head. As soon as Charming had the people in the palm of his hand, things began to change. Cinderella's parents spoke openly of how the laws Charming was implementing were unfair and dangerous. While Cinderella's father tried to rally political support to overthrow Charming, her mother tried to rally local people to get them to organize and protest. When Charming got word of her efforts, he sent guards to arrest her. She would not go quietly, and they executed her in the driveway. I looked towards the front of the house. Had I walked over the spot where Cinderella's mother had died? I turned back to Constance. My grandmother spoke out against King Stefan, Manfred's predecessor, I say, measuring my words, trying not to cry. She was taken, arrested, executed. Constance hesitates for a moment. Her eyes fill with tears, and I look away. Then you can understand all of this, she says. I nod. Cinderella's father remarried, and his new wife, Lady Davis, was just as disgusted with Charming as Cinderella's mother had been, Constance continues. But she thought the best way to fight him would be to learn to fight, to carefully plan his downfall. She passed messages to others who were willing to fight, a sort of underground network of resistance. I've never heard anyone speak of Lady Device as a good person, I say, questioning everything I've ever been taught was true about the tale. She's the villain of the story. Constance shakes her head. She vowed to keep her girls safe no matter the cost, but I don't think she had any idea what the cost would be. Prince Charming ordered Cinderella's father to the palace for questioning, and he was never seen again. Prince Charming killed him, I say. It's not a question, as much as a harsh realization. Of course he had killed him. There was no proof, but Cinderella's father loved his family. Lady Davies believed he would have come home if at all possible. By this time, Cinderella was 18. Prince Charming held his very first ball, and everyone was required to go, and, well, you know that part of the story. But the story, Cinderella's story, doesn't say anything about that. That's not how it goes. It is a lie, says Constance. We sit in silence for several moments. Do you want me to continue? She asks. The truth is tricky. People want to know it, but when they do, sometimes they wish they didn't. I think carefully about this. Everything that has happened in the palace plays in my head. Yes, I want to know. Tell me everything. She takes a deep breath and continues. Shortly after Prince Charming married Cinderella, the laws surrounding the ball and the treatment of women and girls in Lily became so much worse than they had ever been. Some people rebelled, but he put down any and all resistance. She reaches behind her and pulls her braid forward over her shoulder. She twists the end, which reaches down into her lap between her fingers. The firelight glints in her brown eyes as she glances at me. She catches me staring, and although I am a little embarrassed, I don't look away. The corners of her mouth creep up in amusement. When Prince Charming died, I think the people of Versailles actually thought they might be able to bring about some change. But that never happened because his successor, King Eustace, was worse than he was, Constance says. I have a letter from my great-grandmother to her daughter telling her of the horrible things King Eustace did. The kings of Versailles have all followed the same tenets the Prince Charming put forward, I say. People are so afraid that they would rather stay quiet than say or do anything. As I try to take in everything I've learned, one thing sticks to my mind. Cinderella went up to the castle willingly, even after everything Prince Charming had done. Why? Constance claps her hands together in front of her. That is the question, isn't it? She lowers her tone. Anger and frustration color her voice. It's something that's haunted my family through every generation between Gabrielle and me. They couldn't understand it, and neither do I. You trap peace up to the castle to see the man who destroyed your family. Who does that? What does your family think? I ask. A gentle sigh escapes Constance. My mother suspected the fairy godmother may have had something to do with it. The fairy godmother was Cinderella's friend, I say. She helped her. Constance shakes her head. You have to set the story you know aside, Sophia. My name from her lips sounds like a song. I look down. When I gathered the courage to look up at her, she is fighting back tears, a mask of pain stretched across her face. You don't have to go on, I say. I can see that it's hurting you. I want to tell you. I need to tell someone. She sighs heavily, and sorrow pours out of her. The prince shackled them to wooden stakes just beyond the towers. Lady Davies and Gabrielle and her younger sister, and left them there to die. Gabrielle was able to free herself and the others after 3 days. They were starving, half frozen, but they escaped. Prince Charming says they were exiled to save face. I imagine he was furious when they got away. Where did they go? I ask. Out into the country, past the White Wood. They moved constantly, afraid they'd be hunted down. What became of them? Lady Davies died 20 years after their escape. Constance tugs at the end of her hair again. Gabrielle and her sister made a life for themselves far from here, but they never gave up on Lily. Through the years, their descendants have trained and fought and died trying to fix what was broken here, carrying on the legacy of Cinderella's mother and of Lady Davies, but it has all come to nothing. I tried to take out that statue in the square a few nights ago, but the charge wasn't powerful enough. I remember the burned circle of grass. That was you? She nods. Then suddenly her face falls and she leans towards me. I am the last one who knows the truth. I'm so sorry, Constance. I didn't know what else to say. He'll be after you now. Her knee presses into mine on purpose, testing her boundaries a bit. I don't move away. He won't stop. No, he probably won't, I say, but neither will I. She presses her lips together and lifts her chin a little. You'll just stay on the run forever? Not exactly what I had in mind, I say. A wild thought takes shape in my head. Maybe I get to him before he gets to me.